Good, family? It's your boy Chris Sims, co-host of the Praise Radio Show. I'm here today with the one and only Kareem Keynes, aka Bronx MC, in the house. Kareem, Bronx MC, what's good, bro? What's going on, man?
Chilling, man. How are you doing?
I am good, bro. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you agreed to this interview. I'm excited to have a conversation with you. Let's get it in, oh man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about Kareem Keynes, Bronx MC.
Murder every day on TV. Make the blood pressure high, might need an IV. Don't know who we are, have no ID. Stay holy in His word, it's not easy. So walk by faith and not by sight. And I walk through the dark cause I have the light. Not powered by me, it's a power by Christ. If you think I'm wrong in Him, I'm right. Every brick they threw at me, I stand on. When the flood arose, I was able to stand strong. Unanswered prayers, I'm able to stand long. Gorilla with my faith, call me King Kong, I'm a beast. I'm hungry for His fleece, and I'm praying for the best, and I don't want the least. And I doing my part cause I want to increase. And times running out for my body to cease. Even though I want to live in eternity, the salvation men is not what concerns me. So I pray for others to be in fraternity. Cause the way of God is created perfectly. There might be times where I go through the struggle where things are out of order, but it's just a big puzzle. So I'm back on my grind, I continue my hustle, and doing it straight and not with my muscle. I'm praying for my family in my war room, my war room. I'm praying for my enemies in my war room, my war room. I'm praying for my nation in my war room, my war room. I'm praying for my
All right, so Kareem Keynes, Bronx MC. I'm a Christian rapper, holy hip hopper. I've been rapping for a long time, about 20 years now. Saved 20 years. I grew up in the Bronx, obviously Bronx MC. I grew up in the Bronx. Went to school at a place called Johnson Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island, and I stayed over in Rhode Island for another 3 years. And during those 3 years, and during the time I was at Johnson Wales as well, I really developed my skills in terms of, as a rapper, as an MC. That's where I really, that was like the minor leagues for me. That's where I really developed my skills. And then eventually I decided to move back to New York and to pursue more of, I'm Bronx MC. I feel like I had to come back and really just take on the name more and just take on the essence of the culture more. And pretty much that's the basics of who I am as a MC. I've youth pastored twice. I youth pastored here at my church, Christ Alive Christian Center. I did that for about, I think it's a year, because there was a need at that time. And I youth pastored after I got saved June 2000, and I started youth pastoring November 2001. That's not normally what people are supposed to be doing. But in my situation and the church I was at the time, that kind of worked. And it was good for me because, as a teacher, you have 4 kids. So like you're always teaching your kids and you're a worship minister. So you're always teaching other people. You have to teach yourself first before you teach others. So going through that process of being a youth pastor, it forced me deeper into the word as a young believer. And I had no choice, to get deep in the word because I had to feed others. So that was a great experience there for 2 years. And that helped also cultivate the sound and the way I wanted to rhyme, because at first when I got into Christian rap, I was like, this thing is corny, at the time, because in terms of the type of sounds that was coming out and what they were saying. But, as I grew in the word, as the genre and the culture grew, I realized, what, this is not as bad. I need this. And, I gravitated to more. So in a nutshell, I kind of was all over the place, but that gives you an idea, a little foundation, to build upon. So
what is that experience like, being a youth pastor and you kind of being almost like you were like thrown into that situation? It's like,
the first time I did it was because I wanted to work with youth. I was already working with youth in Providence, Rhode Island, at a place called AS 220. I was running my own hip hop program with the help of AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is like Peace Corps, but it's domesticated. I was getting government money to go into the Rhode Island Training School, which is a prison out there for youth that's in prison, but they also have to have schooling. So I basically I had a heart to work for youth. And anybody knows Rhode Island is the smallest state with the longest name. Because actually the whole name of Rhode Island is Rhode Island and the Providence Plantation. Most people don't know that. but I was in Rhode Island. You know everybody. So if you were in jail 1 minute, and I might know somebody you know on the street, and that's how it was all the time. So I had a heart just working with youth in the church made sense, because realizing that positivity I couldn't necessarily, that was not helping a lot of the young people at the time. So yeah, I was kind of thrown into it, but it helped me a lot because it helped disciple me and discipline me more, because you can't be a youth pastor, you can't be out there drinking, smoking, cursing, fornicating, doing all types of stuff. So a lot of that stuff I had to put to the side. There was people who were with me who got saved at the same time, and they saw how my elevation just went to another level, because I was in a position, and I had no choice but to grow in the word if I wanted to see the fruit. These young people were hungry for the word at the time, and I had no choice but to grow. So the second time I did it here at Christ Alive. I was already doing youth stuff. I was already in youth. I did youth for 10 years here, and there was a gap, and Pastor Dean needed me to basically take over youth for a season, and that was a great experience for me too, because I got better at my sermons. Anybody who knows me and how I do stuff, I use a lot of multimedia. So I was using every sermon was a PowerPoint. It had video in it. So I was using a lot of it. I created a system for myself, and that was very important for me. And also when I felt like I didn't leave Christ Alive, but when I left that position, like I felt strong in my way of delivering sermons, or putting together information to present to people. So that's one thing I perfected during my time as youth pastor, youth leader here at Christ Alive. So during that season, but I ultimately decided to just step down from that position because it was a number of things. I was about to have I was about to have a child. My Zoe, who's now 5, and those other things I felt God wanted me to pursue, and it ended up being a good thing because I run multimedia here at Christ Alive as well, and I've taken off with multimedia in so many different ways. So, but yeah.
Because I've seen your work in the multimedia area. What drove that passion for you?
I think being an artist, so as an MC, there's an ecosystem of things that we have to get done to get our music to the masses.
Right.
And when I was in Providence, Rhode Island, my best friend, DJ Tech, also one of the young people I was mentoring, one of the first people I started mentoring out there, he knew how to do a program called Photoshop. And I was the way I used to make flyers back in the day for my shows, I literally cut and paste. I took a scissors and I cut the paper, I taped it and I put it on a copy machine, and that was a flyer.
So
Photoshop, Photoshop is a program, you can do that digitally. So he was doing it in the office one day at AS220, and I was just watching him, and I was like, all right, just over his shoulder, watching how he do this. And then other things that he did too, like he's a DJ, obviously DJ Tech, watching him how he DJ'd. I never really got into DJ like that, but I understand the concepts of DJ. And some other thing, audio, so you're doing soundboard and stuff like that, like I learned from him. And this guy's 5 years younger than me at the time. I think he was like 17, 18 at the time. And I think it was like 22, 23 at the time. So I'm learning a lot from this young man. And so over time, like being an MC, you realize, all right, I got to do a show. I got to do a flyer. So you need Photoshop to really do a flyer. And then you realize, well, you've been in studios, you've been doing live sound. You want your sound to be a certain way. Well, I need, you start learning how to do the soundboard, because, you this is part of the ecosystem of doing music.
Right.
Then you want to record your own stuff because you don't always have the money to go to the studio. So it's kind of like, all right, I started at 4-track. A 4-track is actually a machine where most people don't know that a cassette tape actually has 4 tracks on it. They think it's just A and B, but it's really 4 tracks. The reason you have stereo is because side A has 2 tracks, to side B has 2 tracks. But in the machine called a 4-track, you could break up those 4 tracks, and then you could put your lyrics on your vocals on one track, then your ad-libs on another track, the beat on another track, and then whatever else you want to do on the 3rd track. So is just called 4-track on a cassette tape. So I started with that, recording things, and then doing other things, you know, with Pro Tools and stuff like that. So I got into multimedia because I wanted to improve on how I was getting my message of my raps to a bigger audience. So that's why a lot of the things I've gotten into is all stemmed from hip hop, all stemmed from me just wanting to get my stuff further out. Even videoing, you get into videography was really more like didn't want to always pay somebody to do a video. Not to say I don't want to, you know, I won't do it because I've thought about it, but sometimes it's kind of like people don't see your vision the way you see your vision.
Right.
And I knew, like, you know, understanding how if you've ever been behind a soundboard, going to Pro Tools or going to Photoshop or one of these editing programs, they're all similar concepts. So it was easy getting to other things because I was like, I need to get this done. So I'll just do it. I figured out how to do it myself to the best of my ability. And then what turned around is people like yourself and others, Pastor Tanya Knight, Pastor Dean, B. Renee Barnes, people like that start seeing my work and start to say, yo, you could do this for me.
Right.
And for a fee, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it was kind of like, oh yeah, I can. And then at first it was reluctantly trying, you know, I was like, I might get into certain, you know, doing it. But then the money started being nice and you start having kids and you start realizing, well, yeah, I could take this money and flip it and do this other stuff. So, you know, so that's how I kind of got into the multimedia and the multimedia services and to where I'm at today. So,
so what was the very first song you wrote?
Wow. I can't even say it because I think it has some words in it. It's not yeah, at the time. I wrote it back in 1995. The first song I wrote, it had something about Starks and Ewing, because I was a big Knicks fan, you know, especially in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I religiously watched the Knicks. I had to put the Starks jersey on, you know what I'm saying, while the Knicks were playing, because it was like a religious moment, you know what I mean? You're trying to win a championship that we never won, but, you know, it had something, I kind of remember, do I remember it? Small Doc, brother. No, I don't. I'm not going to even try to do that. But I knew I said something about Starks and Ewing in the song because they were my favorite. Or Starks was my favorite basketball player coming up. So I remember the first time I wrote a rhyme. But I remember this too, that it wasn't always on beat. It was kind of like I wrote the rhyme, but it wasn't on beat. It was more like almost like a poem in a sense. It was years later. Around the year 2000 when I really started getting more into like my stuff being on beat, you know, right. Beyond just a rhyme I wrote. So
right. So what was your motivation for writing that first one? I know we all have like a background story. For me, it was like I wasn't a very talkative person growing up, and so having that moment when I wrote my first song, it was kind of like me having a conversation. It was like my first real conversation with God. It's like, man, this was liberating, you know, having that space. What was it like for you?
I think for me it was liberating because same like you, I wasn't really, you know, I was shy, dark-skinned brother. You know, I needed glasses, you know, thank God for contacts, you know, short, all these different things, you know, as your own people. I mean, I went to Our Savior Lutheran School and up to 7th grade, I was just like picked on all types of stuff. People going Shamu and all those other things. So you're just quiet, you know what I mean? And I guess the motivation was to try to express myself. You have to understand, like when it comes to hip hop was like at a point my religion. Because when I came home, it was not like I got on the phone. It wasn't like I was talking to my friends. The first thing I did, I turned on Video Music Box. That joint came on at 4 o'clock, I think, in the afternoon. Right. And then when we got cable in the Bronx, it was Yo MTV Raps at 4:30 for a half hour, and flipping back and forth to Rap City, which started at the same time on BET, and then it went all the way to 6 o'clock. So I spent a lot of my time just watching music videos coming up. So and especially being in the Bronx, I can remember my earliest memory was hip hop was just, seeing the b-boys on the not even the linoleum, but on the cardboard, breaking and doing their thing on Carpenter Avenue, and then walking to the 2 train at 225th and seeing graffiti on it like I was a young boy. So I was always into the culture, but it was hard because my mom always censored it, in the house. I think the first rap tape I got was like some mixtape I got, for Christmas one year, and then my cousin Maria gave me Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Me Back tape back in 1988. She gave me that. I had a Vanilla Ice tape. I got that too. You know what I mean? Because I was a clean rap. But I guess the motivation behind it was because I always loved hip hop, and I saw it as a tool of expression for myself. Because the other thing is, I left Our Savior Lutheran School at 7th grade. Went to this other school called Windward School in White Plains, New York, because I was diagnosed with a learning disability, basically like English, and I had a hard time in school. School wasn't my thing, and so my mom put me in this. It was between that or special ed. My mom was like, "Nah, we're not going special ed," because she worked for, she worked at education, so she knew nothing against special ed, because I work in special ed now as my 9 to 5, but she didn't want me to put me into special ed. So going to that school and just being in love with hip hop, I just needed an outlet to express myself, because I necessarily didn't have that. I was a quiet kid. So that was the encouragement for me to start writing my own rhymes, and just for me to write, and so that's where it all started. And then the last thing I want to say, like, I always read the Source magazine coming up, and there was an article in one of the Source magazines. I'm trying to find this article. I've been trying to find it. This group called Camp Low, and I think the article said the Bronx Emcees. And I was like, yo, I like that name. The article was called the Bronx Emcees, with an S at the end. And I was like, yo, if I were ever going to do an album, I'm going to call it the Bronx Emcees. I'm going to call it the Bronx Emcees, something like that, just as a love of the culture. I'm going to do a real hip hop album. And which leads me to another story. The reason why I took on the name Bronx MC was because I was in Providence, Rhode Island one year, and I was at an open mic, and I always used to rap freestyle like Kareem Kane's, aka the Bronx MC, because I learned from my man Solo, Naquan, that he's from Brooklyn. He's like, when you out of state, you always represent New York hard. He always used to say this to me: you represent, make sure people know that you from New York, because Brooklyn cats, like, that's how they Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's that Bronx. So every time I was from with Kareem Kane's, aka the Bronx MC, it was just more like a something I was freestyling with. And one day, my people's she went by the name Carmen at the time, and she was like, yo, just put Bronx MC on the open mic list. And from that day, I was just Bronx MC, and that was my name from that moment. So, I know we said a lot more than what your question was, but I'm just but so for that moment, I was Bronx MC, and it made sense. It made sense because it's not like I'm trying to be like anybody, but I could kind of see where certain pieces of other MCs from the Bronx I have in me, like KRS-One. The way he thinks about hip hop, and the way he's made a philosophy about it, I think that way as well. So I could have a piece of that. Slick Rick, how he rhymes, how he goes back and forth even with himself. He's Slick Rick, and he's MC Ricky D. I did that a little bit on the Emergency 911 song, where I was kind of play both characters. Big Pun, how he raps fast. I could rap fast too. So it kind of made sense taking on that name, not just because I'm from the Bronx, but it's a more of a what do you call it? It's more of a celebration of hip hop. That's not really the word I want to use. More of a paying homage to the culture. You know what I mean?
Right.
So paying homage to the culture. So that's really what I feel like my name represents, and which is which is funny because somebody. When I first got into Christian rap, it was like, you don't want to take on a Christian rap name? You know what I mean? Like Bronx MC, that sounds like, worldly and stuff like that. I looked at it and I was like, no. You know what I mean? Like, why would I want to be like, no disrespect to anybody's out there named Obedience or, whatever your name is, you know what I'm saying? That's biblical. But I said no because I felt like I'm trying to reach the culture of hip hop. You know what I mean? I necessarily don't want to have to me at the time, I didn't want to have that type of name because I felt like for my purpose, it was not going to work. Not for what I was trying to do, you know? So, yeah.
I want to rewind and go back a little bit because you touched on something really interesting. You spoke on how you kind of grew up with a learning disability,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's pretty interesting that you grew up with a learning disability in special ed, and now you are an educator yourself.
Mm,
I think that's a pretty interesting story.
yeah.
What is that experience like? For you, like, knowing that, man, like I'm an educator now.
It's not like I set out to be an educator.
Mhm.
It kind of happened because I needed a job, you know? So when I was in Rhode Island, I ran my own hip hop program. It was in the schools. We were every place, just teaching hip hop culture. You know, when I teach hip hop culture, it's not just rap. It's we start with the DJ because the DJ is the foundation. The DJ,
Right.
the MC, the B-boys, B-girls, graffiti writing. You know, it's 4 basic elements, and then we can go into all the other elements. And then when I moved back to New York, you know, obviously I was trying to do more with that. It just didn't happen right away. I needed a job. I started with a place called Susan Wagner Daycare Center in Eden Wall Projects. My mom used to work for there, so I knew the person who ran the center very well, Miss Joyce James, Dr. Joyce James. And so I went, did fill out application, need a job, started working with little kids. It's like, I can work with little kids. I've done it before.
Right.
I think it lasted 12 years. I was there 12 years.
Wow.
In that place. You know, worked with a lot of kids. I got kids right now about to go to college. You know, so I worked there for a minute, and then I left because my wife, Tiana Kane, so she's been on me since day one about, you need to go to the DOE. You know, so we can have the same schedule. I was like, all right. You know, it made sense. More money.
Right.
So, put the application in, and just kind of one thing led to another. And I got a job in the DOE. And the thing is funny about it, when I did the interview, I didn't realize it was a special ed school. I just thought it was an elementary school. So when the guidance counselor said, why you want to work with special needs kids? I kid you not. Because I go in these meetings prayed up in the Holy Spirit. So, she said, why you want to work with special needs kids? I turned right around. I was like, because I was special needs kids too. It just came out my mouth, and I had no idea till she said that this was a special needs school. And, I was at first a little nervous because I didn't really know what to expect, working with special needs kids. The first year I was there, I had a young man cursed and cussed me out, called me the N-word. Not in the way people try to use the N-word now,
Right.
but in a way, racist. Even though he was Spanish in a racist way, all types of things. I want to rape this person. It was just crazy. But I've grown a lot. I've been there 4 years. I've been in school 4 years, and I've grown a lot in this school. I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things, especially multimedia. There's film festivals for special needs kids. I was able to work with these special needs kids and put some films in. So it's interesting because I feel like a lot of these special needs kids need a lot more than what we actually giving them, but it's hard, and I see a lot of them grow. I have one young man I worked with for 4 years. We've been in the same class for 4 years, and that doesn't really happen because the teachers have changed.
Right.
For some reason, we just end up in the same class. Because for me, one of the things when it comes to classes in special ed, you have 12 1-to-1s, 6 1-to-1, no, 12 1-to-1, 8 1-to-1s, 12 and 8 6 1-to-1s. I always want 12 1-to-1 because usually that population, a group of kids, there are a lot who are some high on the spectrum that could do a lot of different things. And of course, you have a couple of kids who need some more help. So I always end up at 12 1-to-1, and being 12 1-to-1, I always end up with this one kid, and I've seen him grow from the time I've been in the school since 2016. So it's been an interesting experience, and it makes you. I'm not saying I want to be educated for the rest of my life, but it definitely it helps me also in my rhyming because it like the goal obviously is not so much to be super complex, but the goal to give information where a child can understand what you're saying. Of course, I'll have complex rhymes here and there, but sometimes the goal is also to give things to make it simple so they can understand. So, yeah.
Good. So, because we're in this COVID-19 situation, the whole world, and this has affected the educational system in a way that unprecedented, and it's affecting everybody, it's teachers and parents, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And now a lot of parents are home. I have my 4.
And they're all under 10, right?
Oh, well, my oldest is 10.
All right.
And so, I mean,
you heard about that $400 money we're getting, right, for food? Hopefully you get it per child. I don't know if it's per child or.
Listen,
that's just
one issue. The heat, that's another issue. We get that. I didn't even get to the food part yet. I'm just talking about the fact that, listen, you talk to your child, you be like, what's 2 plus 10?
Mm-hmm.
They're like 12. I'm like, good. So what's 10 plus 2? And they be like, I don't know. I'm like, it's the same thing.
And here's the thing, they and then they have this new way of doing math.
Right.
Even as an educator, I'm like, what is this? This makes no sense. I feel like, they just want to sell curriculum. That's what they're saying. 2 or 3 years, you're gonna come on another curriculum, and you just want to sell curriculum.
Right.
I mean, like, it makes no sense. You know what I mean?
And it makes it seem like it's like some kind of agenda to cause a separation between parent and child. because it's like, look, the way that I did math is not the way that you do math now. So I don't know how to help you. And so like now that because of this crisis, the children are home, and it's really resting on the parents to really be even more active and from conversations I've had with educators before, they have admitted that 80 to 90% of a child's success comes from how much the parent is involved in the child's education.
Yeah.
And so what advice, especially you being a special needs educator, what advice could you give to parents who have special needs, who is in this crisis, and because my children aren't special needs children. I can, as difficult as it is for me, how much more difficult it is for a parent, who has a special needs child. What advice would you give?
It's rough. It's very rough. Because remote learning is not really for special needs kids right now. Like this is not, to be honest. Number one. Number two, we were thrown into this, so it's like we really have even though they gave us 3 days to prepare after they close the schools, it's thrown into this. And I have this conversation with my sister Tiffany, who works in Maryland, who works with she's an OT, and she does a lot of stuff with technology. And one of the things I had this conversation, and even with some of my other educators, are like, no diss to Google. Google's a great company, but I said the Google platform for me doesn't really seem as up to par for what we're trying to do. That's just to me. So it's not easy at all. I've heard parents say, is remote learning is not for my child, and some of these parents understand that it's not just one kid that's special needs. Some of these parents have two kids special needs in home. So that's why even with summer school coming up, we have a hard time right now just getting these kids right now. Some of these kids to just log on and do work. I don't even know what summer's going to look like. And then I was thinking about it the other day, last night, I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, it's going to be hard for a lot of kids to even go back to school, because special needs, because you got to understand a lot of what their helps them a lot is routine systems. And because systems were thrown out of place and have been home, they come back to school and give them like, you got to come to school, you got to sit at the desk, you know, you got to go through this whole routine. After 6 months or plus, or who knows, of not doing that, and you being home and doing what you want to do, it's going to be very, very difficult. And you know, I have to be in my war room now, start praying about this, because it's going to be difficult on the educators and the one-to-ones dealing with these kids, because they're not used to structure anymore. So my advice to parents, obviously be patient and find what works. You know, obviously as educators, we're going to give you assignments. We're going to put the things in play to help teach your kids. But if that's not, you feel like that's not working, you got to find something that works. There are sites where the kids can learn. You have them get on that, and you know, find what works in your situation. Because at the end of the day, you know, you're living with your kid, you know, and what's going on, they're probably going to get a lot more from you personally, one-to-one, and not, you know, because we're not there all day long with your kid like that. So I say just find what works and just keep it, you know, that's an honest truth, you know. And we can support you any way we can, but if we find something that works, just use it, you know.
So let's get into your music, because you're doing something really interesting right now. I thought it was pretty dope.
Like a thief in the night, Jesus is coming back. These people need to read the word, man, and see the facts. Call 911, it's a state of emergency. They need a great physician because they need heart surgery. This is a emergency, 911. This is a emergency, 911. This is a emergency, 911. They need to hear the good news of God's forgotten son. This is a emergency, 911. This is a emergency, 911. This is a emergency, 911. They need to know that Jesus Christ, the victory was won.
911, what is your emergency?
Man's dead in sin, they living in uncertainty, they living for themselves, they counting up their currency. Hell's the destination for the rest of eternity.
What is your name?
You can call me Christian, ambassador for Christ. I'm on the kingdom mission. Matthew 28, it's called the Great Commission. There's people dying out here, they need a great physician.
What is your number?
Man, don't you gotta call an ID? I don't got time for this. These people need an IV. Infected with a plague, they need to be set free. They're lost in their sins. That's why I MC.
Sir, I hear you're concerned, but you need to calm down. Please give your location, your city, or your town.
I'm from the boogie down, that's Bronx, New York City. How long before you get here? It's not looking pretty, cuz this is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. They need to hear the good news of God's forgotten son. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. They need to know that Jesus Christ, the victory was won.
Sir, stay on the line. Help us on the way.
So one stand my ground, continue to pray, cause time's running out, got no time to play. This is the final hours, last moment, last days. That's why I preach the word in and out of season. Just for this reason, they need to start believing.
Sir, you really sounded a little overdramatic.
But for Christ my king, I'm more than fanatic. I'm a charismatic with the truth for these addicts. Tomorrow's not promised, life can be erratic.
Sir, just be patient, what you do is not in vain.
But to them it's foolishness, they think I'm insane. Their enemy comes, the kill, steal, destroy. That's why I need some help, some more saints deploy. The harvest is great, but the laborers are few. Hold up, wait, I think I see you rushing through, cuz this is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. They need to hear the good news of God's forgotten son. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. They need to know that Jesus Christ, the victory is won. This a mayday, mayday, a SOS.
All units need the world in distress.
Here comes the cavalry.
The happens have the strategy against the principality that's warring on their faculty.
The battle's in their mind, the target is their heart.
They need to take the shield to brave the prince of fiery darts.
If they're not born again, the slaves of the enemy. They got rules and regulations spreading on their memory.
With gigabytes of sanity,
Running through their amenities, curses and profanities. Got a false identity.
Christ is the remedy.
That's the weed on the Hennessy. Listen to this melody and change up their destiny.
They're living on the fences.
Relying on their senses, they're part of the senses. They're living unrepentant.
It's going to be expensive.
The waste of sin is death. If Christ they reject, then hell they accept. So this is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. They need to hear the good news of God's forgotten son. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. This is an emergency, 911. They need to know that Jesus
so glad I had the opportunity to speak to you. You're doing something interesting right now where you are releasing a song per week in the
Hmm.
month of May.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty dope. Tell everybody about what you're doing.
So I had this idea to do a 5 for 5 in the 5th month. I necessarily didn't promote it like that, you know. I need to do more on my marketing because so what ended up happening was with this whole pandemic, I was like, all right, here's an opportunity for me to get some songs done. A lot of these songs were done already. Like when I say done, me in terms of like I'm the king of demos. I have tons of demos of songs. So one of the things I was like, all right, I'm gonna go record a song a week. I'm gonna finish up these songs, get them out. I have opportunity now, no excuses, because I'm not gonna have this again. So I just went in and started recording songs, and it was kind of like, well, wait a second, May's coming up. You could drop a song every week, you know, because I always wanted to drop songs around my birthday. That's something I've been wanting to do for years. And then so it's kind of like, all right, I can finally do that and put some music out. And then I did do 5 for 5, and I talked to a few people in my circle, and it's like, yeah, go do it. And the first song was Emergency 911 because I looked at the date, because now music is really dropped on Friday. You know, you can drop music any day you want, really, you know, but, you know, for industry purposes, everybody's dropping on Fridays. So that was the first song to come out. I just put it out. And I did War Room. War Room was done already. I had that done. I just got it like in early April from the guy who mixed it, Soundmind Studio. Shout out to Chris, and did an excellent job with it too. And he did an excellent job with actually do a radio version. Did an excellent job with that as well. And then the next song after that was Brewing. War Room and Emergency 911's on streaming services. Everybody could go cop that. Brewing's not there yet because I'm going to do another mix of it. Work on another mix to make it more the sound that I want. You know, the mix that came out was dope, but I want to do one that's like closer to the sound that I originally wanted. And then I just put one out yesterday called We're Rocking with the Best. The last two songs are boom bap songs. And then next week I'm putting on next week. It's a toss-up right now. It's either going to be another mix of Brewing, or it's going to be another song or throwback song that people may ask me for and hasn't been put out at all. So that's where we're at. It was originally supposed to be another song, but I kind of didn't get back to the studio to record, and which is okay because going through this whole process, I realized putting music out. I always knew putting music out was a lot of work, but it's even more work now because you have to have certain things in play to make it go further. You know, you have to have the lyrics on Mix Match so it can go to Instagram stories so people could put lyrics with the videos. You can have Apple Music so people could read the music, read the lyrics as they're going. Like, you want those different things because it makes you more professional artist. Lyric videos, you gotta get those going. It's just a bunch of different things you have to do. So what I've been doing is the last 2 weeks, I literally just put the music out. Put it on my Bronx Emcee Facebook page and my YouTube and like here. And then what I'm doing is especially coming this week, I'm gonna do a lot more marketing on social media to let people know, okay, it's here. Because I had to wait because of this whole pandemic for certain songs to get on streaming services because I realized it's going to take 3 weeks. It usually takes me like a week, a few days to get on streaming. And it was like, oh, it's going to take plan for 3 weeks now. So that kind of slowed the way I wanted to market. So, but it did it. So I was like, let me just put the songs out, and then I could always on the back end, phase 2, really, you know, push the marketing a lot more. So.
Cool, man. Really interesting concept that you have. Like, I've never seen anybody do anything like that. Really dope. Coming down to the end, man, and I want to give you an opportunity to let everybody know they can find you, your social media tags, where they can find your music, and if there's any shout outs you want to give to anybody.
Yeah, so you can find the easiest way, go to bronxemcee.com. That's BRONXEMCEE.com. And once you go to the first page, you're going to see on the bottom all my social media. Every social media is Bronx Emcee. So you go to Instagram, Bronx MC, YouTube, Bronx MC, whatever social media, LinkedIn. I think it's Bronx MC too. I need to do more stuff on that platform. So everything is BronxMC.com or whatever it is, you know. And shout outs to my wife because she allows me to, you know, get out the house and do stuff like this. Shout out to Pastor Dean Brown who you know I get a lot of word from and you know allows me to do a lot of different things too. And shout out to my family, and you know, shout out to you, Chris. You know, I've known you since when Jessica was pregnant with your first child. I remember going to the open mics right here on Eastchester Road.
Right,
so, right. You know what I mean? Back in the day. So, but if I forgot anybody, forgive me. You know, because we're running out of time. You know, but yeah. So BronxMC.com.
I'm gonna put all those links in there and even
my music.
Share some of your music with people.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, bro, I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. Bronx MC, everybody. Woo!
All right.
Take care, man. Thank you again.
You too, Chris. Tell the wife I said what's up, and we'll be talking.
Yes, sir.
All right. Salute.